What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Unscripted. I'm James Shipp, and I'm here, as always, with Michael McCaffrey. We have a very special guest today, the head of growth and partnerships here at Coreum, coming to us from Vancouver, Canada, Favio Velarde. What's up, Favio?
Hey, everyone. Yeah, we'll put me on a screen or something, so I'm still there. But, this podcast was an idea I think we have for a long time, so I'm happy to see that it's happening. And this is not going to be the last time I'm going to be here, but it's a good, fresh start. So what do you got for us today, James?
Well, good question. I know you've been traveling a lot, man. You just got back from XRPL Apex, right? Where's it, Amsterdam, right?
Yes.
So maybe we could start there, man. Tell us a little bit about that, how the trip was, and how that went.
I mean, it was a short trip, but I gotta say that event, it really marked before and after to how I perceived the XRPL, because I definitely saw a lot more focus on interoperability and you know, the whole scope of the conference was to get together every project that is building something that provides value to the ledger. And I was surprised that I didn't know everyone still, so there were some new faces, which was nice. It was the first time Reza was speaking on stage representing Sologenic, so you know, I was with him in the panel, and he did an amazing job. So definitely an experience right there. Amsterdam in general was really rainy and not the best. But it's always like, I love the city. I don't know if you guys have been, but it's one of the most like distinguished, I guess. I wouldn't say iconic, but you know, it's like when you're in Amsterdam, you know you're in Amsterdam. Like, I don't think there's other cities that are much alike, even in Europe. Yeah,
definitely. So I've been to Apex actually before. I went to the Apex, I think it was like 2 years ago. They talked a lot about the XRPL mainnet, a lot of developments and different proposals happening on the mainnet, whether it was AMM. I think we had XLS20 that was going to be passed a couple months after. There was a lot of hype, a lot of development happening on the mainnet. Curious to know, like, considering you had boots on the ground, Favio, at the Apex event this year, was there a lot of discussion about the XRPL mainnet, or was it really geared towards and focused on that EVM interoperability sort of narrative, or was there any sort of discussion, any panels, that were people talking about the mainnet? Because I know that there's a lot more functionality that can be had with utilizing a different sidechain, whether it's on EVM or Cosmos. But
yeah,
curious to know if there was any discussion on the mainnet.
Well, first of all, I think one thing that the Ripple team is very good at doing is marketing, and that includes hosting events that serve its purpose. So like there was a time, and this is one thing that you guys have seen in Consensus or like in Paris Blockchain Week. Did you get to see any of the talks? If you are a sponsor, you don't. You know, you're in your
Right.
booth or your meetings.
Yeah.
But in this type of event, there was time allocated for, you know, the main presentations, and there was time allocated for a breakout rooms. So they had like a validator stage, and then they had like a more the validator stage was more so for the partners that actually, you know, run infrastructure on the ledger. And then they had a stage that was more focused on interoperability and more developer tooling, for example. So I would say diverse topics, but definitely saw a heavy emphasis on the EVM sidechain that they're building. Which I mean,
cool.
It's good, but yeah.
I think it would be cool to have for them to have like a boot camp, you know, having those events, right? Everyone's networking, making connections, shaking hands with different project founders. I think if Ripple took the initiative to kind of, you know, had an event solely for the builders who are trying to make different connections. So in other words, connecting all of these different stakeholders on the XRPL, all the projects, and essentially connect all of these different use cases, creating more of a robust ecosystem. So I think there's a lot of, like you brought up, like there's a lot of discussion about new projects launching on the XRPL, different ecosystems connecting to it. But I think of, events focused on bringing those builders together to like map out how they can kind of like create more of a robust partnership and connecting those different stakeholders, whether it be on the infrastructure side, the wallet side. But I think that's a big thing in crypto. There needs to be heavy business development, because this is an emerging industry. There needs to be boots on the ground, people meeting people. So yeah, those events are critical for expanding ecosystems. But on the business side, that would be cool.
Yeah, I would say the outline definitely pushed that. They had like Brella, which is an application. I think it's the same we used in Consensus, but this time I actually got to use it and like request one-on-one meetings with different partners. Shout out to the guys that over at Melt Gold, for example. I got to meet them in person. Spendbit, Salmon Wallet. A lot of like the conversations we had were projects that are either already working with us or that are easily gonna integrate and work with us. So yeah, to your point, I think that event, it did serve its purpose when it comes to connecting everyone that is building there.
Nice.
So yeah.
That's dope.
Also, being in Europe, it's definitely a different sentiment. Because I've been in Ripple Swell last year, for example, completely different event, more institutional players, banks. And this one is more, like you said, builders, developers. But overall, just being in Europe, everyone has that compliance first approach, because MIKA just dropped.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because that was going to be my next question. Was Europe is becoming kind of a hub for this compliant crypto world, right? Where they're really focusing on regulation. And so MIKA, if you could just explain quickly what MIKA is and how that's affecting the ecosystems out there and what kind of conversations were happening around that.
Well, pretty much, I'm not an expert on regulation, but what I do understand, this is a clear framework for companies that are using digital assets or cryptocurrencies as the core layer of their business to operate in compliance with regulation. So what this framework entails and why is it important is because it really sets a level playing field for any company that wants to build in the space. And I'm not going to get into the specific rules and kind of like stipulations that it has, but one of the ones that caught my attention today actually is that every electronic money token, so basically stable coins, has to have this sort of certificate. I think the deadline is like June. So a lot of exchanges that are based in Europe, like Uphold, Bitstamp, even Binance, and the big ones like Kraken, they might have to delist some of the stable coins. And I don't think this is a bad thing, because it just forces like stable coins specifically to really figure out what the proof of reserves thing and also
Right.
I think there's clear steps, right? It's not like in the US where it's more like you do and then you see what happens in terms of regulation. At least it has
Right.
been.
Yeah, see if you get sued on the back end, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the sentiment towards MIKA, I think it's positive, because at least like I said, there's a script. There's something that you can follow, and excited to see kind of like the effect in the long term. I don't think it's something we're gonna see short term. Maybe the stablecoins thing, yes, but in terms of companies actually adhering to it and serving as an example of why these rules were implemented. The cool part is, though, that it is shared between the European Union. So it's a lot of countries that are going to be, sharing that same framework. So then you don't have to really, shift things around. I've seen exchanges, for example, that you cannot use in certain jurisdictions, right? We've all experienced that.
Right.
Or V4 DEXs, for example. I think DYDX, you cannot use it here in Canada. So that type of issues, I think this really helps. Yeah.
And I did a little research, Favio, too. It's something that I honestly was talking about. It was like a year ago, saying I just really wish the regulators could give us a solid framework, right? Like a script of what we need to adhere to. But at the same time, giving us, let's say, a year's notice, right, to adhere to these sort of frameworks, and giving us time to connect with these different stakeholders that are regulated with these different governments. And that's what they're doing. I did read, and they said that they're giving anyone in the European Union, I think it's about a year to kind of like get compliant, get in compliance with this new framework. And it's cool too. It's also it pertains to NFTs as well.
Oh, really?
Which is pretty crazy. So it's like any NFT that has like a sort of like a financial instrument to it, like if there's any yield bearing product behind the NFT. So maybe you've heard of Mad Scientists. They have a really great NFT collection that has different staking mechanisms where you can, I'm just using them as an example. Hypothetically, that would be under what they want to make sure that they're adhering to, those sort of tokens as well. So it's not just limited to stable coins, it's digital assets, it's any company that's managing digital assets. But it's good news for the decentralized applications, because there's no intermediaries with those, and they don't need to adhere to those frameworks, which is nice. So I think they're giving us a good.
Sorry to cut you off, but actually that kind of was going to bring me to my question I was going to have for Favio.